Hello and welcome back to another week on the Self-Ruled podcast. I am your host, Hannah Holden, and this is the source to claim your purpose, accelerate self-belief, and become the person that you're meant to be. I was really struggling to figure out what I wanted to talk about this morning. I feel like there's been a lot of different things swirling around in my mind and my life. And so we're going to kind of wing it today. I think my intention for the episode this week is to just give a little life update on what's going on with me, and then also just share some things that are kind of weighing heavy on my heart. So life update, nothing major. I just wanted to share a little bit about what I've been up to lately. This week I traveled to Chicago. I got back late last night and I traveled to Chicago to do a speaking engagement at an investment bank. And the reason I'm telling all of you this and sharing this is that hopefully it will inspire you to see that when you create an intention in your life or a vision for your life, you don't always have to know how it's going to come to be for it to come to be. And I'm using the example of the speaking engagement this week because during that engagement, I shared a story from some years ago, back in 2019, when I had been going through a tough time at a job that I had, and I started writing down the vision that I had for my life. And that was the first time I ever wrote down that I am a speaker, coach, and facilitator. And that was in 2019. I was about a year into a job as a speaking coach, but I was working for a company doing that. But I had seen other people out there in the world working for themselves, sharing their ideas, whether it was through speaking engagements or leading these seminars and sessions. And I found it so interesting, so fascinating that there were people out there who work for themselves and really just talked about what they wanted to talk about. They studied what they wanted to study, and they found a way to kind of be both students and teachers of life. So they found a way to study the things they were interested in, whether it was leadership, personal growth, relationships, whatever it was, something that they were passionate about, and then turn that knowledge and that passion into something that they could use to teach other people, all while making money doing it, all while, getting paid for their purpose. And at the time, I just saw some people out there doing things like this, and it was interesting to me because it was just something about it that stood out to me, and I thought, that's what I want to be doing. I want to be just following my curiosity, learning what I'm, interested in, and finding ways to add value to other people's lives through that. But I had no idea how that was going to happen because, like I said, I was about a year into a job at a company where I was a speaking coach. But other than that, I had no experience as a speaker, facilitator, coach in the I guess mainstream world. I mean, I had done a lot of speaking in the military, a lot of briefings, but I had no experience doing what I saw other people doing. I just know it looked interesting and I was curious about it. And in 2019, I wrote that down for the first time, but I had no idea how that was going to come to be. But I'm sharing this story with you because when something comes along in your life and it just stands out to you and you think, wow, I could see myself doing that, or wow, that would be amazing to do something like that, whatever it is. And you may not understand how you're going to get there. You may not even fully believe it's possible yet, but I'm sharing this because I want to encourage you to listen when that moment comes, whatever it may be, personally or professionally. When something comes into your awareness and you have that curiosity about it and that draw to it, to lean into that and trust that, explore that. Because if I hadn't written that down in 2019, having no idea where it would lead, I wouldn't have planted that seed within myself and kind of within the universe, where now that I planted that seed back then, I started to see opportunities to make that a reality. I started to see opportunities to go to networking events, to go to entrepreneurial networking events, to get certification. So once I had that intention, all of a sudden for the next how many years, I guess it's been 6 years, I've seen so many opportunities to move in the direction of that vision and that intention that I set. And I still am. But this week was just kind of a reminder. Going out there and doing that speaking engagement was a reminder of how things can really surprise us and come to be when we set the intention or vision, but then we also show up for it. In the last 5 years, I've definitely done a lot of coaching and facilitation, but I've really only done a few speaking engagements. So that was really special for me this week because that is the first time that I have gotten on a plane and flown somewhere just to speak for an hour. And I mean, to me, that's incredible. That's absolutely incredible that I had set that intention and that came to be this week. So sharing this with you because if there's something like that for you, just because you don't see how it's possible yet, doesn't mean it's not possible. Doesn't mean that if you don't, write down that intention or find a way to hold that intention, that vision, that you can't find a way to work towards it. So that's kind of the life update. It's just that I am continuing to evolve and grow into the purpose and the vision and the intention that I set. The other thing that I kind of wanted to get into this week was to talk about unity, because as I was giving my presentation yesterday, or my keynote, I was sharing some different stories throughout my life about times where I became a leader in different settings because I was building unity in groups. I was building cohesion. I was standing up for other people and bringing people together. And this is heavy on my heart this week because I just continue to be honestly devastated by the state of affairs in our country, the amount of people that are allowing others to create division in them, to create division with their friends, with their family. There is this campaign of division in our country, and it weighs heavily on my heart because it's very painful for me to see how there are so many people out there who aren't consciously aware of what is happening. They are falling prey, they are taking the bait, they are falling into rudeness and ugliness and meanness towards their fellow neighbors. And they aren't able to zoom out and see the bigger picture and see really how much they are losing by being susceptible to some of these narratives that are out there. And so I don't want this to get real political, but what I do want to do, if you're listening, is to challenge you to think about how you're being influenced, how you're being controlled by these narratives that are out there. And are the narratives that you're being controlled out there, are they a force of good? Is there goodness coming from that? Because if you take all the, political parties out of it, all of this just highly emotional content, highly triggering content, I think as human beings, we have to ask ourselves if what we're allowing ourselves to be influenced and controlled by is serving the good of humanity. It weighs heavy on my heart that people aren't thinking more critically about how they're being controlled, how they're allowing their fear to be used against them to make them malicious towards other people. And I've just been thinking about this all week because I'm giving this speaking engagement and I'm reflecting on all the times where I've spoken up on things like that. I'm reflecting on the fact that one of the intentions behind this speaking engagement this week was to create unity among this group. I was speaking to 5 different employee resource groups at a company, and really my goal, no matter what I'm doing, whether it's coaching someone, working with teams, speaking, my goal is to create opportunities for cohesion, for unity, for goodness, for connection, belonging, all of these positive things. And it really does, what's the right word? It's very disheartening to see the state of the world and how So many people are just letting themselves be hijacked away from their heart and hijacked away from being good to other people. I think something I want to read to you, because actually I was not planning on this at all, but there is something called the Hopi Prophecy, and I actually read it at the end of my speaking engagement this week because I feel like this Hopi Prophecy is relevant at any time in history, but I feel like it's really relevant for the time that we're living in now and everything that's been on my mind this week. And this Hopi Prophecy comes from a Hopi tribe, which is out of Arizona. There are a group of elders within that tribe that prophesize about the future of the world. This is a tribe that sees themselves as caretakers of the earth and take on personal responsibility for caretaking the earth and humanity. So I wanted to share this with you because I think it's so powerful. You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour, and there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for your leader. Then he clasped his hands together, smiled, and said, "This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our eyes open and our heads above the water. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for. This hits me every time that I read it. I've read this so many times and I've heard it on YouTube's, but I just think there's probably nothing I can think of that's more relevant to the time that we're living in, both on just a personal level and a societal level. And I think how I would connect this entire conversation back to the theme of the Self-Ruled podcast and being a self-ruled person is that please do not allow other people to dictate and control your goodness. That's what I see happening everywhere, is people being susceptible and impressionable and easily manipulated through their fear to have hatred towards other people. And I just think that the moment you let other people take your goodness away from you, we really have nothing left. And we're headed in a dark place as a society. I don't know what else I don't have much else to say this week, but I just wanted to share that with you. We are the ones that we've been waiting for, as the Hopi Prophecy says. And I think a big part of that is just choosing to do right, choosing to be good to other people, choosing to create community, and as the prophecy says, rejoice and celebrate with the people that are there with us. So thank you so much for joining this week on the Self-Ruled podcast. I actually don't know what I'm going to title this episode because it was all over the place. So episode title TBD, but I hope that wherever you are having a great week. Talk to you next time.